The engine coughed, screamed, and then died in the middle of the empty highway, leaving a sudden silence so heavy it felt like a warning. The Hells Angels riders stood frozen beside their massive black bikes, leather jackets stiff with dust and pride, staring at the dead machine like men who had never known defeat until this moment. The sun burned low and red, and from the shadows near the road, a thin, homeless boy watched them unseen, clutching a rusted wrench like it was the last thing tying him to the world. If this story makes you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected miracles, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to travel far. The boy's name was Eli, though no one had called him that in a long time. He was 13, maybe 14, his age blurred by hunger and cold nights under bridges. His hands were small but scarred, fingers permanently stained with grease from fixing broken things people threw away. Engines made sense to him in a way people never did. Machines broke for reasons you could understand, and when you fixed them, they stayed fixed. People were different. People looked through him like he was smoke. That afternoon, he had been scavenging for scrap when the sound of roaring motorcycles had shaken the road, a sound so powerful it rattled his chest. He had watched from a distance, equal parts afraid and fascinated, until the roar died and turned into frustration. The Hells Angels were not men the world usually said no to. They had pushed their bikes hard for miles, confident nothing could stop them, but this engine refused to breathe. Tools came out, tempers flared, and sweat darkened their shirts as they tried everything they knew. The leader of the group, a man with silver threaded through his beard and eyes hardened by years of riding, slammed his fist against the gas tank in anger. Time stretched. Night was coming. For the first time in a long while, they were stuck, and none of them liked how that felt. From the edge of the road, Eli shifted his weight from one bare foot to the other. He knew that engine. He had seen its kind abandoned behind junkyards, broken by one tiny problem most people never noticed. His stomach twisted with fear as he took a step forward, then another. These were dangerous men, everyone said so. Men who didn't care about kids like him. But hunger and loneliness can push courage out of places you didn't know existed. He clutched his wrench, took a breath, and walked into their line of sight, heart pounding so loud he was sure they could hear it. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't demand attention. He just stood there, thin as a shadow, eyes fixed on the bike like it was calling to him. The riders noticed him then, surprise flickering across their faces, followed by suspicion. A homeless kid had no place here. Eli swallowed and forced the words out, his voice shaking but determined. If he could fix the bike, would they keep him? Not forever, not as family, just keep him around. Somewhere to sleep, something to eat, a reason to exist tomorrow. The question hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Laughter almost came, sharp and dismissive, but it died before it fully formed. Something about the boy's eyes stopped it. They weren't begging in the usual way. They were focused, serious, filled with a quiet confidence that didn't match his torn clothes. The leader studied him for a long moment, then stepped back from the bike, arms crossed. There was no promise in his expression, only a silent challenge. Fix it if you can. Eli moved like he belonged there. He knelt beside the engine, fingers brushing metal with familiarity and respect. The world around him faded. He listened, felt, and remembered. He loosened one bolt, tightened another, adjusted a line almost invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. The riders watched in silence, arms heavy at their sides, the sound of the boy's breathing mixing with the ticking of cooling metal. Minutes passed. Then Eli wiped his hands on his jeans and nodded once. The engine roared back to life, loud and strong, slicing through the quiet evening like thunder. The sound echoed down the road, and for a moment no one moved. Then the riders stared at the boy, not with suspicion now, but with something closer to disbelief. That bike wasn't just fixed. It purred like it hadn't in years. Eli stood slowly, unsure what came next. He had done his part. Now the fear returned, sharper than before. He waited for laughter, for anger, for being told to disappear. Instead, the leader removed his gloves and looked at the boy like he was seeing him for the first time. Around them, the road felt different, less empty. A jacket was placed gently around Eli's shoulders, heavy and warm. Food appeared, real food passed into his trembling hands. No one said much, but the decision had been made. That night Eli didn't sleep under a bridge. He sat by a fire wrapped in borrowed warmth, listening to stories of roads traveled and mistakes made. He learned that even the toughest men carried regrets, that everyone had once been young and lost. Over the following weeks he stayed. He cleaned, learned, helped, and fixed more than just bikes. Slowly he fixed himself. He went to school. He laughed. He belonged. Years passed like miles on an open highway. Eli grew taller, stronger, surer. He became known for his skill, his patience, his quiet way of understanding engines and people alike. One day, as he stood in a proper garage with his name painted on the wall, he remembered the boy on the roadside who had asked not for money, but for a chance. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and tell us where you're watching from and whether you believe one small act can change a life. When Eli looked back at that broken bike and that dangerous question, he understood something most people never do. Sometimes survival isn't about being saved. It's about being seen. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach the people who need them most, and maybe, just maybe, it will remind someone out there that they are worth keeping.